Hello my bookworms, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sydney, and today's video we will be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So hey, what's up? How are you? I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. I truly cannot believe that it is already June, let alone almost the end of June. Like, holy shit, my bridal shower is in like a few weeks. Things are actually starting to feel real in my life. Like before it was the idea that like, yeah, I'm gonna be getting married in October. Now it's like, oh, that's really soon. And before it was like, yeah, we'll be moving into our house eventually. And now it's like, oh, we're almost there. This year has been so much crazier, so much more busy than any other year that I have had thus far in my life. And this tag is going to help me parse through some of my bookish thoughts thus far in 2022. The first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2022? This is a very tough question for me because I have a few, multiple from different genres, and I don't know how to pick one of them. But a couple of my favorite books that I've read so far this year are Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers. This one I read this past month, and it's one of those books that I know is going to just live rent-free in my head for quite a while. This book starts off really light and funny, but I realized that this book became the most real portrayal of adult relationships and adult struggles that I have ever read. It takes a look at each character that we're following in their best and worst times, the things that they're struggling with, and it doesn't sugarcoat anything. It doesn't try to make you see anything particular. It just gives you what everything is at face value, and all of these relationships are hard to read. They're intricate, they're messy. Some of them are very toxic, but at its base, it is such a beautiful, amazing story that I think that I'm going to love forever. Another one I really liked, which I feel like I read it forever ago, but I definitely didn't. It was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I just loved this. It took me so long to read this book because of the list of trigger warnings for it, but ultimately I'm so glad that I read it because it was so phenomenal. The world building in the first 100 pages were very dense and definitely made me take it slow to make sure I was understanding. But after that, the story took off and it was super interesting, very dark, very atmospheric, very moody, with some paranormal things thrown in the mix. Like, I was so here for it and I loved every single second of it. I cannot wait for book 2. Another one I really loved this year is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This one briefly just made me feel some type of way that I have never felt while reading a book. The way that Lily King wrote this story and the way that she described scenes, described what the characters were going through, and just wrote her scenes, it just felt like I have lived through some of these situations, even though I know I haven't, but it felt very strange, like almost deja vu while reading this book. I don't know, it was very strange, and I read this book in one sitting and I loved it so much. It just holds a special place in my heart now. Another phenomenal book that I've read this year is The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang. This book was absolutely phenomenal. The family dynamics within the story were really well done. The fight scenes were phenomenal, very long, very descriptive, and M.L. Wang did not flinch away from being mean to us. I know this is a classic book that most people who read it say that it kind of destroyed them. They cried, it was very dramatic, and it is very dramatic. It was a very good story, and I read this chunker in 2 days. It was unputdownable, and it's a Stannisy fandalone. Why do I always freaking do that? And it is a standalone fantasy book, which is kind of hard to come by nowadays, it feels like. So very great, fantastic, love to see it. Question number 2 is, what is the best sequel that you have read thus far in 2022? I don't know where it is right now, but it is Jade War by Fonda Lee. I feel like I haven't read too many sequels. I haven't continued series, I've just been starting them. But I did read Jade War, and I believe I gave it 5 stars. It's great. The Greenbone Saga is phenomenal. Fonda Lee is an incredible writer. The fact that she is, like, I think a black belt in karate or something, taekwondo perhaps, I'm not sure, but she is very skilled herself in fighting, so the way that she writes her fight scenes were very like exact and intricate, and they were really great. The way that she wrote her family dynamics within the Greenbone Saga while mixing in all of these politics, which are very intricate, and it makes the world so rich and so lush. It was just phenomenal. It's a huge world that she has just interwoven all of these stories, these side characters, and these different parts of the world to be interacting with each other, and the underlying like mob story of it, phenomenal. Absolutely great. Question number 3 is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet that you would like to still? It's over here somewhere. Where the fuck is it? Hello? Hello? I literally just had it. Oh, found it. That book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Am I a fake fan since I haven't read it yet? Maybe. I don't know. I purchased this book from the local indie bookstore that Emily Henry had recommended on her Instagram story because she was signing the books that were going out of that store. So I purchased a signed book from that indie store, and then it never came. I had got an email that it had been shipped. There was no tracking number, and then it was like 4 weeks later and I still hadn't gotten it. So I emailed them and they obviously sent me another one for free, which was very sweet. And it is still signed, which is phenomenal. Thank you so much. Like the store's watching this right now, but thank you anyways. But this is obviously so high up on my list. I've given every book I've read by Emily Henry 5 stars. I love her so much. One of my favorite authors for sure. The next question, what is your most anticipated release for the remaining part of the year? I have two. The first one is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. It is a atmospheric like retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Fall of the House of Usher. And this cover is just, my camera's dying, hold on. We might be a little bit closer now, but hi. Anyways, we were talking about What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. And it's funny because I'm definitely a lot closer. I just looked at my like viewfinder and I wasn't used to seeing myself this close. Sorry, anyways, it's funny because I requested this book as an ARC on NetGalley, but my NetGalley game sucks so bad. It's like I only try when there's a book that I really, really want, and I don't have the stats to back it up. So why would they give it to me? I don't know. I didn't get it, but fate works in mysterious ways. And I am going to be joining Kayla from Books and Lala, as well as Erin from Booked and Busy, and Steph from Stephanie Bookish on the Literally Dead Book Club over on Kayla's channel in August. Can't believe it. Super excited. Absolutely honored. But yeah, we're reading that book. We will also be reading the original Edgar Allan Poe story as well, just to have something to compare it to perhaps. You don't have to read both of them, but I think most of us, if not all of us, are. So it should be super fun. I'm very excited. And the other book that I'm very much looking forward to is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I mean, how could you not? The Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang is literally one of my favorite series ever. It is perfection. And I'm so excited to see her take on a dark academia book. And so far from the friends that I have who have received arcs of Babel have said nothing but glowing reviews. So my hopes are relatively high and I am absolutely so excited about it. The fifth question is, what has been the biggest disappointment of the year so far? Definitely was When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. I've talked about this book a couple times already here on my channel, but I was just very excited about the story. I love dragons. I love a women-driven story, but the way that the dragons were ultimately portrayed were not my favorite thing. Though I can see why some people would love it, it just wasn't my favorite, as well as the fact that it is advertised as Kelly Barnhill's adult debut. And to me personally, again, it just didn't feel like an adult book in the slightest. So what I was expecting was not what I felt that I got. So I just had more issues with the book than things I loved about it. So I was definitely very disappointed by it. I'm more upset than you are, I promise. The other disappointment that I had this year, this is an unpopular opinion, okay? Are we ready? I don't know where it is. Oh, yes I do. This book has been all over BookTube, the internet, galore, with like glowing reviews. Everyone was really, really loving it. So I was like, cool, let's get into it. But it was just okay. It was just okay for me. It was The Maid by Nina Prose. I loved her main characters as well as like the characters that she was interacting with, you know, like the good guys at least. The bad guys I wanted to throat punch and push them out of the story. But the story itself is just where I felt like it fell a little bit flat. It was just an okay arc for me. She's gonna push me out of frame. She's pushing me out of frame. Okay, we'll scoot over. Well, and now you see my empty part where I took books off to talk about. Whatever, I'll switch sides. Anyways, the story itself, I just felt like it could have been a little bit more dramatic, a little bit amped up, I guess I could say. It felt like a very casual thriller to me, where if that's what you wanted, if that's what you are into and looking for, great, fantastic. I guess I just wanted a little bit more drama and action. And that's just me. That's a personal preference. So it just kind of fell flat. I gave it a 3, which still isn't bad. Again, I liked it, but Question number 6 is, what is the biggest surprise of the year so far? It's kind of an easy question. It was Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto. This book surprised me in every way. I had never heard about it until one of my patrons, Alisa, brought it up, became her whole personality. Well, it probably has been her whole personality. She loves this series. But one day it just kind of like appeared in the Discord chat and it became a whole thing. So we read it within my book club and I genuinely had no idea what to expect because I hadn't heard anyone talk about it. And I feel like that should change because this book was great. I gave it 5 stars. There are so many point of views within this story. A story that involves ancient Phoenix riders and them coming back to power within a government that wants to, you know, smolder them. Smolder? You know, like diminish, put out. This book has so many great things going for it, and I just really think that more people should read it because it was really great. I was super surprised. I loved it. Another one that I want to mention for like most surprising or whatever is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I just finished this yesterday and haven't even spoken about it on my channel here yet. So hi, let's chat about it a little bit. This book is on my most surprising because I didn't really know what it was about until I like actually sat down to read it. I picked it up for a secret TBR that I'm doing, and once I actually read the synopsis before I started reading the story, I was kind of mad at myself that I have waited so long because even in the synopsis, it is exactly what I like. It literally says, inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas and woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, political intrigue, and forbidden magic. That's just a taste of it because these characters, I would die for so many of them. Maybe this is a contender for one of my favorite books of the year too, honestly. I don't know. It was so great. So great to the point that I immediately purchased Fevered Star, book 2 in the trilogy, and it got here yesterday already. But at that point, I thought it was a duology, and I found out it's a trilogy, so I'm a little bit upset. Upset because I have to wait a unforeseen amount of time for the finale of the series, and I thought I was going to be able to finish it with Fevered Star, but I'm not. However, we follow so many point of views in this story. One of them is the newly appointed Sun Priest, who comes from a clan that the Sun Priest normally does not come from, so she's getting a lot of pushback. People are trying to overthrow her, all of these things. And then we have a Teak woman who is a sailor, like a captain, and she is taking an important package, so to say, which is another one of our main characters, Serapio. She's taking him across the angry ocean, sea, whatever, to Tova before the convergence, which is like the solar eclipse and the winter solstice. And Serapio, I'm telling you, I love him. I love him so much. I can't even get into like all the characters that I love because I'd be here all day. Rebecca Roanhorse is amazing. She's amazing. And I cannot wait to read more from this series, more from her. The next one is, who is one of your new favorite authors? And I don't really remember what my answer was last year. I feel like it might have been Emily Henry. But this year, my answer is kind of funny because my answer is Brandon Sanderson. Even though I haven't gotten into his Cosmere so deep, I have now read the Mistborn trilogy as well as Skyward and Starsight. And the more I read from him, just the more I'm falling in love with his writing and his characters and his world building abilities. Whenever I think about a Brandon Sanderson book, I just get this like warm kind of excitement in my chest because I know that he has so many books that I have yet to read, which I have been accumulating them. I have purchased the second trilogy in the Mistborn series. I have Elantris downstairs. I have The Way of Kings. I have the third book in the Skyward series, Cytonic. I am just so excited to keep reading from him, and he has just become an author this year where I get that feeling of excitement to read his books whenever I think about them. So I think that Brandy Sandy is my answer. Question number 8 is, who is your new fictional crush? And I don't have an answer for this one this year. My crushes have pretty much stayed the same, which is Kaz Brekker and Hunt Athalar, forever and always. Question number 9 is your new favorite characters. And I do have answers for this one. 2 right off the bat are from Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Our main character Spensa in this story is one of my favorites. She is just so passionate and hard-headed, and it just brings a smile to my face thinking about her, as well as her side character Mbot. Anyone who's read this book will understand how amazing Mbot is. So absolutely hilarious, as well as Doomslug. Again, if you've read it, you know the characters. Just thinking about these characters in this story makes me so happy. They are phenomenal, and Brandon Sanderson just brought them to life in the most perfect way. I do have to say also that Jerkface in this book, it's like Captain Jerkface is what they call him, is another one of my faves. He grew on me throughout the story. But I do also want to mention that Serapio in Black Sun is one of my new favorite characters as well. The way that he's written in this story, the trials that he has been through while growing up to become what he is meant to become is just so brutal, but reading this story with him as one of our point of views is just so special because you're hearing his inner dialogue, you're hearing his history of what he went through, while also hearing from Zyala, who is our Teak captain, like I mentioned earlier. She's taking him to like the city of Tova. So we are hearing what Zyala is thinking of Serapio. So we're getting 2 different perspectives of this character. And he's so sweet, but so mysterious hilarious and disturbing even, but like in the best ways. Like I would die for Serapio. I really would. And the way that this book ended, I don't even want to talk about it. Question number 10. Question number 10 is, what's a book that made you cry? I feel like I cry more often than I think I do while reading books. But the first one that I want to mention is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. If you guys don't know this book, you freaking should. This book was stellar. Again, maybe a contender for some of my favorites of the year for sure. This story was so special. And the main reason that it made me cry was because learning about one of our main characters, we have Eva and Shane, and learning about Eva in particular and what she went through as a kid and how she struggled with self-harm, it really got to me. It really did. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely cried at some scenes. I can't do this right now. Definitely cried at some scenes in regarding to the self-harm because it just felt very raw, very real. Like I have definitely thought these things, been there, you know how that goes. But in addition to that, the story itself is just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It is sad, it's heartbreaking, it's uplifting, it's stunning. Because our two main characters are both writers, and when they were kids, they had this like whirlwind week-long experience together where they ran off and kind of just lived with each other and were kind of shitheads, but they were together. And then obviously things happened, they got taken away from each other, and now as adults, they're both writers who have been writing their books separately, kind of to each other without speaking with one another. And now they are at the same literary event, not knowing that they're going to see each other, but they do, and it's impossible to keep their past under wraps, basically. And it's great. The other one that made me cry, if you have seen the vlog, then you saw it on camera. But it was The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. This, I like can't even describe to you. I was sobbing. And they were mostly happy tears. It was just like so many overwhelming emotions tears. But this book is just really, really special. It has really, really great queer, neurodivergent, and mental health representation. One of our main characters, Dave, helps produce this like Bachelor style show on TV. And the contestant this year is Charlie, who is like not a camera person. Doesn't know how to act, doesn't know how to even really talk to women. And yet there's like quite a few women trying to gain his love and attention, you know? You know how those shows go. So Dave is assigned to be Charlie's handler and try to coach him through like connecting with the women. But ultimately Charlie is realizing that he's having a much easier time connecting to Dave. And a lot of things happen. It's absolutely phenomenal. And if you even have the slightest enjoyment of rom-coms, you need to pick this up. Question number 11 is, what is a book that made you happy? This book that I'm gonna mention could also go under most surprising of the year because I hadn't even planned to read this book, but ended up picking it up anyways, and it is Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney Stevens. This book just makes me happy. It makes me happy that it exists, and it was just such a pleasant surprise while reading it as well. In the story, our main character is Billy McCaffrey, and it has taken her quite some time to find her people and feel like she belongs. And one day, she kind of realizes that she is starting to fall for her friend Woods, but also for her friend Janie Lee. And she's very confused by this. She doesn't really know what's going on. She doesn't really understand her feelings or what's going on in her head, and she definitely doesn't want to disrupt the friend group dynamic. And it's about her journey of like finding what love means on her own terms, and the characters within the story are just absolutely phenomenal. Our main character, Billy, and then our other main character, I think his name's David, they were my favorite. I just felt a lot while reading this book. It makes me so happy. It makes me a little like nostalgic. I don't know. It's just beautiful. I loved it a lot. That's it. Question number 12 is, what is the most beautiful book that you have received or bought this year? The first time that I read this question, I thought it meant like what was the most like beautifully written book that you have read this year. So I'm gonna answer it that way first because I originally wrote down Strange the Dreamer. The writing in this story was just absolutely stunning. Very reminiscent of The Starless Sea. Oh, it's not there. I lended The Starless Sea to one of my best friends, actually. But the writing in this story was just beautiful. Very lyrical, very poetic, and it was just an absolute joy for my brain to read. But the actual question was the most like physically beautiful book that you have purchased this year or received. I don't really know. I'm gonna give you two quick answers. The first one's one of the classic, like it has sprayed edges and all of this nonsense, and that is the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. The sprayed edge, my favorite. I love a dagger, and it's black and gold and just absolutely stunning. I love black sprayed edges, especially because I don't know if the camera will pick it up well enough, but this is like a very pretty cream color. It's not stark white with obviously like gold shiny accents. It's stunning. I love it a lot. This other one in my hand I just grabbed. I grabbed because it was sitting right next to the Atlas 6, and it's a cover that I think about a lot because I just think that it is one of my favorite styles of book covers, and it is Disorientation by Elaine Heisashu, and it's just so pretty. The bright teal letters mixed in with like the pinks and all of these random objects just scattered throughout the whole scene. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love it a lot. Like there's a hot dog flying out the door, for God's sakes. Like how could you not love this? Might not be a classic answer, but it's one of my answers. I just really love it. And the last question number 13 is, what are some books that you want to read by the end of the year? This question is always stressful because there are so many, but I put together like a very small stack of ones that are just like seem to be calling to me right now at this point in time. And it's a cute little stack. The first one is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. This cover is also one of my favorites ever. I've heard really good things about it and have been told that I would really like it. Another one, kind of the same situation, is I've been told that I would really like it. I've heard that it's very sad, and you know that I love to cry. So that is On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. Again, I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I would just love to cry and read a good book. The next one is a thriller that I saw Kayla reading in one of her reading vlogs. I instantly bought it, but I have yet to read it. However, I really want to read it. It's Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This one, I don't really know much about it other than I love the cover. I think it's super pretty, very simple, and I feel like I really trust Kayla's tastes in thrillers. So this is definitely one that I want to get to ASAP. The next one, okay, I've heard so many people tell me that I would love it, and I know that Katie Colson really loves it, and that book that I really want to get to is Notes on an Execution by Danya Kukafa. I hope I'm saying that name right. I do hate that it has deckled edges, but you know, I'll get over it. And once again, this is a thriller that I don't really know anything about, but I have just heard that it is absolutely phenomenal, which makes me very excited to read it. It says, a searing portrait of the complicated woman caught in the orbit of a serial killer. It's an unbearably tense thriller, a poignant and deeply compassionate tale of resilience. So gosh darn it, my camera's gonna die again. Hi. The last one on my list of books that I want to get to by the end of the year is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This one, again, what's with the deckled edges, people? Can we stop that? So many of my patrons actually have said that they think that I would like this. They have said in all caps how great it is. And it was actually gifted to me by one of my patrons. So this book follows a cast of intricately linked characters over hundreds of years as humanity struggles to rebuild itself in the aftermath of a climate plague. A daring and deeply heartfelt work of mind-bending imagination from a singular new voice. And I guess I'll mention very quickly that Untamed by Glennon Doyle is also on that list, but I just started reading it today. And yeah, I'm feeling kind of emotional today, but I did kind of already tear up from it. I just feel like this book is going to be phenomenal, so I just wanted to kind of mention that I'm reading this and I think it's gonna be great. That's it. But that is it. That's all I have for you today. If you are still watching, then leave the little like sweaty guy that's freaking out emoji down below in the comments. And while you are down there, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another and happy reading. Bye.